Welcome to Behavioral Grooves, the podcast where Tim and I explore the science of why we do what we do and how to apply those insights to lead a more meaningful, connected, and emotionally honest life.
In this episode, we're joined by Rosi Greenberg, an artist, facilitator, and leadership development expert with degrees from Harvard and Princeton. Rosi works with individuals and organizations to cultivate emotionally intelligent, empathetic leaders, and she brings a uniquely creative lens to that work. Her new book, The Inner Critic Advantage: Making Peace with the Parts of Yourself That Keep You Up at Night, is unlike anything we've ever read.
And we mean that. I mean, this book, it looks like it belongs on your children's bookshelf, right? It's an illustrated black and white, hand-drawn images full of very strange and weird characters, and yet it's incredibly accessible, right? It seems really simple, but don't be fooled, because it takes a deep psychological terrain, really exploring it. It tackles this from a very deep psychological perspective, going from self-doubt to imposter syndrome through a vulnerable story about the author befriending her own inner critic and naming that inner critic, which Rosi names Sam.
Yeah, reading this book packed a powerful emotional experience for me. It reminded me that creativity isn't just a form of self-expression. It's also a form of self-repair. And in our conversation, Rosi helps us explore how turning toward our self-doubt rather than away from it can actually deepen our capacity for empathy, resilience, and leadership.
Yeah. We were also struck by how Rosi integrates the behavioral science principles into this narrative, particularly as it relates to uncertainty, narrative framing, and emotional regulation. In this episode, I think this is a powerful reminder that the path to emotional well-being and professional impact often begins with a very simple yet quiet act of listening to ourselves.
So dispense with your inner critic and grab your favorite pour of you being you. Ideally, it will be lawsuit level hot.
No, not that hot. We don't want it that hot.
Well, we hope you enjoy this deeply personal and inspiring conversation with the remarkable Rosi Greenberg. Rosi Greenberg, welcome to Behavioral Grooves.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here with both of you.
So glad to hear you say that. We're happy to have you. And so let's get into some light questions just to kind of loosen up. Coffee or tea?
Chai, actually.
Chai.
Oh.
Got it
now,
right
is
here.
that iced or hot? Does it matter?
You know, I tell them when I go into coffee shops, I ask for lawsuit level hot. Like I say.
Okay.
I want you to burn my
need to
tongue.
understand why lawsuit level hot. What is it? What about that hot? I always want to have to cool it down.
No, I drink it. They'll hand it to me and they'll be like, she's going to sue us. And I just chug it. I start drinking right away. And I just love it extra hot. I don't know.
Wow. I still have my tongue. I was testing out some hot stuff the other day, and my tongue is still feeling like it's burnt. I can't stand it. I give kudos to anybody that can drink that really hot stuff, because that's not my tongue. That's for sure.
Well, Katie, my wife, is like that. Like, she likes it just like blazing hot, and she will only drink coffee out of a Yeti now, because at least she's got a chance at keeping it hot for more than just a minute or two. I don't get it. I know.
My former mother-in-law used to call it asbestos mouth. We have asbestos.
Oh my gosh. I like that.
Well said.
I can't use a Yeti because it keeps it too hot. I need it to cool down. It's like I'm trying to always blow on it. Come on. Okay. We digress.
That's so weird.
Rosi, are you a bicycle person or a unicycle person?
Oh, definitely bicycle.
Okay.
Love riding my bike.
Okay.
All right. Fantastic.
Okay, good. Are you you don't have a commute now, do you? You work from home, right? Yeah. So
I work from home, or I travel for work. So my commute is like airplanes.
To the airport. Yeah.
Probably not. I never learned how to ride a unicycle, so it could be it could be that I'm a unicycle person. Just I don't know it yet.
You just don't know it. There you go.
A latent unicycler.
Does the concept of riding a unicycle intrigue you?
It does not speak to me. It's
let's say that I think because there are certain people who go, "Ooh, that seems like a challenge, and I want to try it, even if I haven't." And then there's others who go, "I'm perfectly fine with two wheels. It seems just fine."
Yeah, I think I'll stick with two.
Okay,
cool.
All right,
That's
sounds good.
Okay, third speed round question. True or false? Empathy is the most lacking leadership skill today.
Ooh, good question. I think probably true. I think it's the most needed today.
Okay.
And I think there's an infinite amount that we can learn about it and go for it. So I don't know if we ever fully kind of fill our empathy bars.
I like that.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to discuss that, I think, in more detail.
Yeah, we're going to tell you, we'll come back to that, definitely.
All right, the last of our starting speed round questions that we blow through all the time here. Okay, true or false? Whether they know it or not, everybody has a Sam.
Oh man, that's a hard one. I think most people have an inner critic, a Sam. I also think that the inner critic is a manifestation of our putting ourselves less than other people. And that if there is a putting ourselves less than other people, there's also a putting ourselves more than other people. And I think some people live much more on the putting, like the aggrandizement side of things. And so, in a way that doesn't come from actual self doubt, some people put themselves one up because they actually think they're one down. I think there are folks that put themselves one up because they actually believe they're one up, and then they become the Sams for everyone else.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I had a conversation with a colleague yesterday, and we were talking about this, getting ready for this conversation with you. And I asked, I said, Dave, do you have, is your inner critic really terrible? Is it really loud? He's like, no. Like, I'm not even aware of it. I was like, how could you live your life without your inner critic? Like, that was just crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I think some people either aren't aware of it. Some people have just done enough work that it or lived enough life that it kind of quiets. So maybe the swings of one up to one down become much, much less. And they're kind of much more living on that like one equal plane. So I don't know, but I trust his experience or their experience.
I really like I like that concept that you just talked about, that maybe people have lived enough life that they've learned to, not necessarily quell or quiet, but to understand it, like, and kind of what the journey that you've gone through to a certain degree. And so we are speaking with Rosi about her new book that she co-authored with her inner critic, Sam. I love that part of the book. We want to learn about you, though, before we start talking about your co-author. So tell us a bit about you, Rosi, and your journey.
I love that. I call myself an artist of leadership development, and
I like it.
Kind of the idea of both using creativity and artistic practice to bring that to what it means to lead in the world and to learn to become ourselves as leaders in the world, but also the art as opposed to art as a science. Like, we don't know how to do it. It's messy, it's creative, it's exploratory. And so yeah. So yeah.
Well, and what was like before you confronted this inner critic?
Yeah. So I grew up, I'm the oldest daughter of a single mom who chose to be a single mom, and had us, 5 of us, in fact, with donor dads, donor fathers, and adoption. And so she really crafted our lives as she wanted to make them. And And that both meant this like wild creativity and sense that you can make the world as you want, and also a sense that, well, I better be perfect to show that our family is a worthy way of making family.
Yeah, both, right? You get both sides. This big empowerment thing going on one side, but also this you better walk straight and tall.
Yeah. Yeah. And that kind
And
of followed me through school, through multiple Ivy League degrees, studying anthropology and public policy and working in teaching and international education. This kind of sense of both like, I can do wild creative things. I'm a powerful person, but I better not fuck it up.
Yeah, exactly.
right.
Exactly. So for our listeners, help kind of describe the book for them, because it is probably, Tim, and I don't know if you would agree with this or not, I think one of the more unique books that we have ever read, and very powerful, very raw level, emotional, powerful, and I think particularly for anybody who does realize that they have a Sam or that inner critic that is there, it is really a wonderful journey and exploration of that. But I want you to explain it, not me. So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rosie.
Um, sure. Somebody once said to me, it's like Brene Brown meets Shel Silverstein.
I love that. That is so great. Rising strong and where the sidewalk ends.
Yeah. And I'm like, if that's what it can be, that's amazing. It looks like a children's book, but it's for adults, primarily. It works with kids too. It's black and white. It's about 60 pages of drawings, illustrations, and text about my journey with my inner critic. And I found that by drawing it out, I mean, I just sat down to write in my journal one day, and there I was drawing a picture of myself with this inner critic. And there I thought, gosh, this is a bad picture. And all of a sudden I was like, that's Sam. And so that became the first page of the book. And it was just kind of both a creative journey, but also a healing journey for me, in writing and drawing it. And then I felt so much power just writing all of the things that Sam was saying to me. Even as I was drawing the book, he was saying, no one should publish this. This is stupid. You drew my hand wrong. Having all those negative thoughts. And all of a sudden, every negative thought I had was just fodder to add to the book. So either he shut up or I could draw more. And either way, I felt really powerful. And so I think that was one of the first times in actually crafting this piece that I had peace.
It almost sounds like, as you're describing it, like it was a cascade.
Yeah.
Like you start, the journal ends up being a spark that lights a bonfire for you. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but am I capturing that relatively correctly?
Yeah, it felt like a download or like something coming through me more than me crafting it. And actually met somebody who said that she 2 years earlier had drawn a very similar picture of herself with a little thing on her head as her inner critic and hadn't done anything with it. And there's this idea, I think Liz Gilbert has this idea that creative ideas choose a person. And if the initial person doesn't carry the idea forward, then they choose another person to come through because they just so need to come through the world. So I kind of feel like the idea chose me, and then I followed it, and I am like a steward of it in the world rather than its master or something.
It's interesting. I mean, what you just said, it reminded me of part of the book where you actually talked about how Sam went through 4 billion, I don't know, I forget the number. It was large, a super large number of people.
4,250,000.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was
before
fantastic.
Sam found you. And I love this idea of just naming that inner critic. And I think part of what the book is this journey of not just naming, but starting to draw the inner critic and what that allowed you to do. So can you talk first, how did Sam get his name? And then from there, what did the act of starting this, as you said, in your journal, drawing him and having that cascade, as Tim talked about? How did that impact you?
Yeah. So a dear friend and mentor, Marshall Gans, had his wife had migraines, and her doctor, psychologist, somebody said, name your migraines, draw your migraines. And that had really helped her. So he suggested that to me that he knew I was just in the throes of the darkness of Sam taking over. And he said, you're an artist, draw Sam and give him a name. And so I did. I said, okay, what's your name? And I heard Sam, and then I heard, God, that's a dumb name.
So you knew it must have been right.
So Sam is even critical of himself.
Yeah.
Of your naming of him.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
What's amazing, though, is a year and a half later, after I'd drawn the book, I saw an article by neurobiologist Dan Siegel, who was writing about the inner critic. And he said it's a system that scans the environment, S, alerts us to danger, A, motivates our action, M, the SAM system. And I was like,
Whoa.
okay, this is right.
Whoa.
Man.
Wow. That's a meta moment right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So let's stay with Sam for just a minute here. And your relationship with Sam then sort of unfolds. Things start to come apart. You start to get unstuck from your past life.
Yeah.
What does that feel like? And you write about falling apart, right? What was that like if you're in all this darkness and then you're actually starting to lose that darkness?
Yeah, I was severely depressed for about a year. It was during COVID. It was winter. I was living alone for the first time. I had just gotten divorced after a 13-year relationship. So all of these factors coming together, and I was out of grad school. I was working, but still had this sense that there was something I was meant to do, and I didn't know what it was. So it was a very, very dark time, and I was seeing my classmates succeeding and seeing people having their COVID projects, and I felt like just a shell of myself. And then a couple things happened at the same time. I switched my medication, got back on Lexapro, and that had given me a little boost before, but it wasn't like finding myself, finding my life. And so I think the Marshall suggesting I draw Sam and some of his coaching during that time was really, really impactful. And then I got an artist residency for that fall. And I had one really big project that I was working on with this incredible community of folks in recovery and doing recovery advocacy. And I didn't know if I could do it because I was so down. But seeing the impact that I had there and the light, and then being taken seriously as an artist and having this kind of ability to see Sam, I think all three of those took the boost from the medication and actually made it real in my life. And I don't think that would have happened without the kind of clearing out that was the depression. So I think it was just little by little, noticing like, oh, I'm actually seeing the sun on my face for the first time, and I'm appreciating it. Or, wow, these people are taking my art seriously, and I actually have an artistic voice that is somehow special. Or these 40 people that I've just trained in this workshop are really proud of themselves and like looking at me as somebody who helped create that. And I think it was like little moments that then added up into a big, like, wow, okay, I'm kind of a magical person and I can do this.
Well, and I think that thank you for sharing that. I'm intrigued and would love to hear more from your perspective. This act of actually drawing, of picturing your inner critic and drawing that out, it had a cathartic impact on you. If I'm understanding the book and what you're talking about here, what about that? I mean, if you've obviously had a chance to kind of reflect upon this, why does that act? And I think there's probably, I don't know. I mean, is this a something that everybody could I do this? Could Tim do? Well, Tim could definitely do it, but
I'm thinking, no way, that would be impossible because that's my inner critic, right?
Exactly. I actually have people draw their SAMs in my workshops
Okay.
on the book. And I say, if the first thing that comes to your mind when I say draw your SAM is something like, I can't draw, which it usually is, or this better be perfect or something, that's your SAM. So that's the first little speech bubble that you write along with him. And
It just got very real in here. Let me just say that.
Yeah, what was your brain saying?
It was just, I'm not a good enough artist to do that. Because I looked at the book and I'm like, I love these drawings. I love the way that you represented these pieces. And they're just so perfect. There's this simplicity about them, and there's this directness about them, and it's like, oh yeah, like, and then me draw my own Sam. No friggin' way. No, like, no, I'm not even gonna try that.
I totally get it. Even I look at the book sometimes and I'm like, oh, so unprofessional. This is like these line drawings. You should have gone to art school. All of it, you know?
So the act of drawing, what about the act of drawing was, I think, the cathartism of this?
For me, drawing and journaling is the thing I can't not do.
Okay.
And so I think it was just this essential feeling of like back to the basics. This is me. And I think in some ways I invite everybody to, like, what's the thing you can't not do? If it's dance or move or sway or cook or mow your lawn, garden, I'm like, do that with your inner critic. Like, what would the I can't dance look like? Or the bury it in your garden or cook it into a soup. What's the I can't cooking recipe or whatever it is. So I think there's something really powerful there. It doesn't have to be drawing, but it's like doing the thing that is like true to your essence. And then I think there is a major piece around externalizing and making what we're subject to object, and being able to see something on the page that we formerly couldn't see, or see something in the soup that we couldn't see.
Hey Groovers, we want to take a moment away from our conversation to thank you for listening to Behavioral Grooves. If you enjoy the conversations we're having and want to help us keep the groove going, here are a few simple ways that you can support the show.
First off, subscribing to our Substack is a great way to stay connected with us between episodes. The weekly newsletter provides you with cool insights that are beyond the episodes, and they get delivered straight to your inbox.
And if you haven't already, leaving a review or a rating of the podcast on a platform like Apple or Spotify or YouTube helps other curious minds discover us. And there's two great things about that. One, it gives us a boost, and two, it costs nothing.
And it only takes a second, but it makes a huge difference for us. Plus, we love hearing from you, so don't be shy. Leave us a review or give us a quick thumbs up.
We're coming up on 500 episodes, and we're doing this because we love the conversations we have with our guests.
Yeah, we also want to do it because we love bringing you insightful, behavior-changing content every week, and we hope that some of those insights will help you find your groove. Well, as much as I like this discussion about the very personal side of it, I'm curious because you work with leaders.
Yeah.
You work with leaders in organizations, and you bring this thought process to them. So can we talk a little bit about the inner critic and leadership, and really what are the opportunities, I suppose, that leaders have to be better leaders when it comes to dealing with their inner critics?
Yeah. Maybe this comes back to the empathy piece. I loved that question, the speed round of so much of leadership today is about the unknown. is about how do we really be with the questions, as a former guest was talking about, and how do we open ourselves to more creative answers. A friend recently told me about Zen peacemakers. He's a dedicated Zen practitioner, and their three tenets are not knowing, bearing witness, and loving action. And I realized that on some level, that's what we teach as leadership at all levels of the self, other, and society. Like, how do we not know? How do we let go of all the things that we think we know and allow ourselves to be open to not knowing and to really being in the ambiguity? And then how do we learn? How do we bear witness to the reality, to the various different perspectives, to the gaps between where we are and where we want to be? How do we explore and bear witness and honor what's true and honor the gaps? And then what does that loving action look like? And how do we experiment and explore and do something new? And I think that's actually, when I do organizational development and leadership development, it's those three things basically, at the level of self, at the level of team, and at the level of this broader society that we're part of. And if you think about each of those levels, well, the inner critic is going to get in the way of us not knowing, because it's going to tell us we have to be certain. You're both nodding. You're like, yep.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, well, uncertainty. I mean, we've had a number of guests on who have talked about uncertainty and how difficult it is for us to sit and just be uncertain. We have this natural inclination, that inner critic, as you said, no, we need to figure this out, and that's not necessary. And I love how you talk about that from a leadership perspective. Is much of what leadership is dealing with the ambiguity, dealing with the unknown, dealing with the uncertain future, and having to live with that and just manage through it. And not even necessarily manage. Sometimes you need to embrace it. You need to say, we don't know, and that's part of the journey that we're going to go on. Is living with that for a certain amount of time.
Yes, and being able to ask the quote unquote dumb questions, the simple questions. Why is this the case? How did we get here? The questions that nobody wants to say because we all want to sound really smart. And that's where the inner critic could get in the way of our ability to actually be curious, to actually not know, to actually ask for help, to actually take other people's perspectives and wisdom. And then the action piece of allowing ourselves to explore rather than to have kind of an exploration in an adaptive way rather than a technical solution to a problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you give us an example from your work of working with a leader where he or she was able to successfully sort of embrace this inner critic?
Yeah. So at a organizational level, a group that I worked with in my workshops, we have people draw the inner critic and then shift to what is the opposite of that. So this was a consortium of folks in Kansas who were they were all coming, there were librarians, firefighters, caseworkers, peer recovery coordinates. So folks from all over coming together. And I think for each of them realizing, I don't have to be perfect at my work. But then at the very end, somebody said, after we had gone through and given permission and a sense of belonging and a sense of it's okay to not be okay, this like deep breath of what if we did this more in our work? It would allow us to share the places where we're getting stuck more. It would allow us to know that it's okay to not be okay. It would allow us to be really honest with each other, and it would feel so much better than the kind of striving, pushing forward thing that we always feel like we're doing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And what happened with that question? What did they do with that question?
We started, I think, incorporating into their meanings, just a sense of, you know, what do you need as an acknowledgement, and incorporating acknowledgement into a little bit more into their practice.
Yeah.
I love this aspect because I think there's as you said, as we talked about at the beginning, this empathy aspect of leadership, and that empathy well is a constant that it doesn't run out, and yet it doesn't get used enough. And what you were just talking about, for me at least, it was a representation of empathy. It's like if I can have empathy, not just for myself and like my uncertainty, but for my team members, for the constituents or the customers that we have, I think that leads to a whole bunch of different aspects of it. And again, as Tim knows, I don't have a question with this. This is just it's me and my little stool here getting up and speaking. But there's something that I think also, given today's kind of world and some of the messages coming out, like empathy is almost getting a bad rap. And I don't think it should. I think empathy is actually one of the best qualities that we can have, particularly as a leader. So I don't know if you have a statement on that or not.
Makes me think of, so in a recent workshop, she's a director at a food company. So I was working, or a packaged goods. And we were teaching about, empathy and holding tension, and how do you not try to just go for the technical solution. And we finished day one and we come in day two and we ask, any insights over the night. And this woman said, I was driving my kid home from soccer practice. Kid's 11 or 12. And she was having just a total meltdown and was so frustrated with the people on her team. And she was really upset. And I normally would have tried to shut this down and fix it and problem solve with her. But instead, I just stayed quiet and I just listened. And, I was so surprised that it took about 2 minutes for her to get it all out and calm down. And there was just a moment of silence. And then she just said, "Thanks, Mom." And
Wow.
yeah, a lot of times we think of empathy as a doing. And I think it's a lot more about a being. And can we let ourselves just be with? And again, that's if we're in fixing mode.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
Oh, yeah. At the same time, when you go back to those Zen principles, there is loving action. And I'm wondering about the leader who might be listening and says, I am aware of my inner critic. What would be some of your advice to coach them to do something, to do something about it? What would a first action be like?
I mean, I think in stuck challenges, there is a tendency to personalize and to imagine that we're just having personality conflicts and people just, they're just annoying people, or they're just whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I would say go have a conversation with somebody who you think wants you to fail or who you want them to fail. Work with your inner critic beforehand to allow yourself to step into that conversation with real curiosity and ask them genuine, real questions, not just one, not just, maybe it's about a change process. Like, why don't you want this change? But truly genuine, the follow-up questions are the most important after the first one. It's easy to ask the first one.
Yeah.
And then you start arguing about why you're right.
Instantly. I was curious. I demonstrated my curiosity. Now I'm going to prove to you why you're wrong.
Exactly. I checked that box.
Yeah.
So I would say challenge yourself to have a real curious conversation with somebody who you think you disagree with, to truly deeply understand their perspective without sharing yours, unless they ask for it, unless they start getting curious.
How do we know if we're making progress then? I mean, are there milestones along the journey that you can go, I'm, this inner critic that is just keeping me awake at night and driving me to not be the best person that I can be. How do we know what are the milestones, or are there milestones along that journey of kind of working through that?
I love that question. And I think if we think of milestones as progress rather than check boxes,
Yeah.
then yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
how you're asking it. I think on a leadership level, it's, can we hold more of the whole? Can we hold more of the system? Can we understand more of the perspectives and the polarities and the different interactions between the multiple things that we're trying to hold as we make an organizational change, or as we navigate, steward our organization into the next, or into this moment of complete chaos. Can we hold the opposing perspectives with grace? And then I think for the self, there is, and that's the team level too. But then I think for the self, it's, can I hold myself with grace? Can I mess up and forgive myself? And how short of a time frame does that happen?
Because
Yeah.
I think that time frame is really important, because we do. I mean, I think there is that initial natural tendency. Oh crap, I screwed up. But then it's the next statement, right? It's, as you said, it's the probing questions after that. Okay, I screwed up. Now I gotta move on, and let's do what I can do to fix it, or not, instead of ruminating and living in that, oh crap, now, and then the downward spiral that typically can happen with that, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, I messed up. Can I be okay with that? Or is there something I need to do to
Yeah,
repair?
exactly. Love it.
Yeah.
That's it. Then let go.
So back to this conversation. I love this idea of the leader who is confronting that inner critic, and they're going to have this conversation with someone who is bent on making them fail. If you could whisper some secret message in the ear of that person, what would that be?
Hmm. I'd be like, you're okay. Just listen. You'll be okay.
What do you think they should whisper back to Sam? Their
Um,
Sam.
like, just give me a minute.
I don't think they need to whisper that either. They can probably shout that right back.
Just give me a minute.
Exactly. That
Like,
sounds.
this is part of the process. This is part of, I know you want me to be successful. I know you want me to be seen as a powerful leader. I know you want me to be, in integrity with my own identity of myself and my power and my abilities, my capabilities, my leadership. Like, this is part of that.
And I think that what you just said reminded me that the one of the key things that I took out of the book was this idea that when you realize that your Sam was just scared, right? It wasn't Sam wasn't trying to necessarily. Your Sam was trying to protect you. It was when you realize that it switched that. I mean, at least it appeared to me, it switched that dynamic, and I think that's it's a really interesting concept, and I'd love for you to kind of share a little bit more about that.
Yeah. I'm curious to hear also, like, what stood out about that to
Yeah.
you, maybe.
And so I think it's this way of framing, and I think Tim and I have talked about framing a lot, and how important framing is for how we view the world. And again, from a behavioral science perspective, we talk about really hard and fast kind of things. It's you have a 10% chance of a 90% chance of success with this treatment, 10% chance of failure, and the way that you say it will get people to start or stop that, right? But this is a framing of an internal component, and not even internal, but intention. And framing of that intention, I think, changes our relationship. And it changes it not just with an inner critic, in my viewpoint. Sorry, I'm pontificating again, as Tim will know. But I think there's this it's even reframing like with friends, with coworkers, with a leader, and the intent that they have versus what we're assuming their intent is, and reframing that can, it's re-looking at it. So it's maybe taking a more meta view. It's taking a different perspective. It's the empathy. It's having empathy with people or things that maybe aren't there. All right, I'm going to shut up now. And there's my inner critic going, right? You're talking too much, Kurt. You're talking too much. You're going on and
No,
on
I
and
think that's
on.
just a good editor, actually.
Ooh. Looks like you have an outer critic.
Oh, Tim and I are each other's best outer critics.
Yes,
Here we go.
yes.
Yeah, I love that. No, I love what you're saying about reframing, and I think the question for reframing in some ways is like, how is exactly what's happening an intelligence? How is this a wisdom?
Yes.
And I think that's true in this hypothetical conversation I'm suggesting that people have with somebody who they just don't understand. How is exactly what's happening with this person a complete intelligence and wisdom? How is it a solution to a previous problem? And I think we can ask that for ourselves too. How is this inner critic a solution to a previous problem? How is what it's doing a perfect intelligence? And then at the systemic level, we can also ask that, like, how is the way that we feel our system is broken? It's not broken. It's doing exactly what it is meant to do. So how is what it's meant to do an intelligence? What is it protecting? What is it trying to hold sacred? Maybe if we can look at those things and say, oh, you're trying to protect whatever it is in the systemic or the personal, then we can incorporate that while making the shift so that we're not, if we're just trying to push against what it's protecting, it's going to get even more protective.
Yeah.
So if Sam's really afraid of me getting hurt and I'm trying to say, well, I don't care about getting hurt, let's go get hurt, he's going to get even more loud. And so this idea that, oh, it's an intelligence, he doesn't want me to get hurt. Okay, how can I show him that I'm going to be okay getting hurt? That at a deeper level, I really appreciate the protection, that comes from early childhood. There's so much more to say there, but I think that's kind of the essential piece of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rosie, we talk to a lot of people about finding their groove on this show, and we haven't known each other for more than like 45 minutes, but it appears like you're kind of in your groove these days. You look great. You have there's a vivacity to the tone of your voice, and you look like you're in your groove.
Thank you.
So I'm curious about what role did the confrontation with Sam play in you finding your groove?
Yeah. I feel so in my groove in life in these past couple years in a way that I never have and always kind of had an inkling was possible. And was striving for many years, thinking, oh, I just need to find my groove. What is my purpose? How do I get there? I did all of the self-help things on finding my purpose and all of that. And I think it was the pushing. It was the sense that I had to find something, that I had to have a thing that was my thing. So kind of incorporating that perfectionism or that should actually allowed me to, so incorporating Sam really allowed me to take a deep breath and just kind of look around at what I'm doing and making my mess my message here. And and just kind of do things because I love them and they feel like a soul's calling or a message that I get to create with. It's this beautiful combination of art and leadership and psychology and empathy and care and connection and group work that I feel just so, like, I feel emotional even saying, like, I feel so lucky. So I guess it was like clearing out the things that weren't that.
Yeah.
And then giving patience and incorporating the mess of it, and then giving patience for it to just emerge.
So the just emerge part, Rosie, 10 years ago, if we would have met you and talked to you 10 years ago, 15 years ago, would you have had the picture of what that would look like? Or was it through just allowing it to show?
Yeah, it was through, I think the depression had a big effect of like peeling away everything that was the shoulds.
Mm,
Yeah, no, 10 years ago, 10 years ago, I was working a 9 to 5. I was married. I was applying to grad school. Um, I was just doing the things that I thought I should be doing, and I had no idea why or what I truly wanted or what my heart was calling. And I felt, um, I wouldn't have named it at the time, but I felt kind of blah or stagnant or like I was wearing some kind of armor.
we've, I mean, that's actually, thank you, because it's an interesting piece in kind of the work that Tim and I do is trying to get to that core, trying to understand that core, because we think, Tim, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think we both believe that there is a lot of shoulds that people hold on to, from early childhood, from society, from going out on Twitter and seeing, or whatever social media thing, and seeing friends who are doing things that, perfect vacations and looking so happy, and we know that, well, yes, that's what they show there. That's not really probably how their life is going, and yet we go, if only I was like that, if only I could be there. And truly uncovering what is going to give you joy and give you that sense of fulfillment. I think we so many things get in the way.
Yeah.
And so I'm not, I don't think everybody has to go through your journey and the difficulties that you did, but I mean, what were some of the things that allowed you to peel some of that away?
Yeah. Um, I mean, first of all, feeling very, very lucky and privileged in having money and a scholarship to school, not a ton of money, but like being able to work in the ways that I chose, having a scholarship to school, so I wasn't paying a ton of debt.
Mhm.
I think there are very real constraints on a lot of
Mm,
folks that um, create a lot of shoulds that are, they call them gravity
mm,
problems, that are just real and true. Um, I also had this model of a mom who had worked, she created her life. She worked for herself most of her life until
wow.
recently. So when I graduated school, I didn't get a normal job. I just kind of was doing what I wanted to do, or what felt right in a way. Um, but I think there's a lot of bravery and a lot of risk taking that it requires to kind of do the hard things.
Mm,
Um, and follow your own desire and light. And like often you don't know what that is in the big way, but you know what it is in a little way. Maybe it's, I want to buy this book for myself or this shirt, or I just want to paint for 10 minutes, or I want to, that's a beautiful tree over there. I'm going to go check it out. And following those little impulses, I think, kind of then allows us to follow the bigger ones. I have a couple friends right now who are leaving long-term partnerships, and that's like a
mm,
huge, huge scary thing to do. And they're doing it not because there's something so wrong, but just because they're feeling like there's more. They're feeling called.
mm,
They're feeling like they want to find their life or something, their light. And
mm.
that's a huge step. But I think like
Yeah.
little desires, little ways that do work with your circumstances and situations, and like allowing those little things then start to allow the bigger possibilities and moves.
That's beautifully said. That is just really beautifully said. That articulates this idea of you don't have to make huge strides, And you don't have to burden yourself with the expectation that if you're going to get better, you have to make huge strides. You
Gosh, no.
can just start with small,
Yeah.
right? Start little, start
Yeah.
with tiny steps, baby steps, to paraphrase Bill Murray.
Yeah, because otherwise the big strides just become another should.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, and then when we don't get them, then the inner critic comes back on and says, "See, I told you, you can't do this," and that just it's a reinforcing loop. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
Rosie, did you listen to music while you were writing the book?
I did not. I do have a heart music playlist.
Oh, what's a heart music playlist?
It's music that speaks to my heart from different eras or moments in my life. So there'll be a special song or something, and I'll put it on.
Cool. Anything
Yeah.
come to mind? Any artists come to mind, or particular songs?
Kesha's "This Is Me" from The Greatest Showman. I just love that. It's about all of the shoulds and the darkness that can come in, and then finding yourself in the light. I used to go ice skating on Tuesdays in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where I lived, and there would be like 6 people on the rink, and then slowly at the end of the hour they would get off and I would have the rink to myself, and I would put that on as my last song and just skate around pretending I was in the Olympics.
I love that. I love that. Well, we want to express our gratitude to you for being our guest on Behavioral Grooves today, because this was really a lovely conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm like, oh, it's over. Darn, that was so lovely. And I want to hear so much more about you two and the way that all of this intertwines with your work. But
Oh, we're not that interesting.
says Tim's inner critic.
Sam.
There you go.
Well, that's so weird. I don't even have an inner critic. Oh man. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Rosie. It's been fantastic, and we appreciate you. Welcome to our grooving session, where Tim and I share ideas on what we learned from our discussion with Rosie, have a free-flowing conversation, and groove on whatever else comes into our Bob and Jill brains. See, Bob and Jill are our Sams, Tim.
Bob and Jill?
Yeah, you have Bob, I have Jill.
Oh, really?
or maybe you have Jill and I have Bob. I don't know.
But they're
you have
not
to name
Sam.
that inner critic, and who's that inner critic for you?
Yeah. Have you done that before? Have you ever been aware of that? I mean, maybe inner critic.
I've been aware of my inner critic. I haven't named my inner critic. I haven't given my inner critic a name. I just call it Kurt.
Well, and I think that's part of the trouble, right? Is that when we frame the inner critic as us, that makes it worse, more powerful, more egregious, really. Because then the self-doubt, or maybe even self-hate, is coming from me rather than from this. I love how she named Sam, and Sam isn't even her gender. Sam's totally separate.
Well, I mean, did you take Jill or Bob? Who do you want?
I'll take Bob. That's fine.
Okay,
you assign me to Bob.
I took a different gendered person than too, Jill.
Way to go.
Damn you, Jill! Shut up. And apologize for any Jills or Bobs out there in the audience, or any Sams, by the way. So there you go.
Well,
we're not saying anything bad about you.
It's just a name.
It's our own. It's our own Bobs. It's our own Jills. So
what struck you most about what would you like to groove on in our conversation with Rosie?
Oh, I could groove on a lot. Really liked before we get into the grooving part, I just want to say this was a unique book, and I think it is some interesting. For you, it hit hard, right? And for me, there was some really interest. It was a good book. I liked it. But I think for certain people, this could really hit very hard for people because of the uniqueness of it and the way it is. That being said, I think it's a really good book. People check it out, right? But this idea of framing. So as you said, naming your inner critic is a way of framing that criticism. It is a way of putting it and looking at it from a certain perspective. And that, I think, is really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm fascinated with how framing shows up in our lives all the time.
Oh, all the time.
Right from all the way that we frame how we dress when we go to an office versus when we're working at home. It's a framing thing, isn't it?
Mm.
Part of it's a social, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things. I don't want to say it's only framing, but framing is introduced in how we present ourselves and how we take in information and how we talk to our kids or talk to our loved ones or talk to our business associates. All of those conversations are framed in a particular context.
This gets so much into all of that mindset work, the grit, the other
Oh,
mindset world where how we frame a situation, how we frame our response, how we frame how we're feeling impacts not just the way that we look at it, but our subsequent behavior with that as
mhm.
well. I loved how Rosie reframed Sam from being evil, trying to keep her back,
Yeah.
to being scared.
Yeah.
Again, this is
Yeah.
a make believe figurature, so to a certain degree of this inner critic, but because of that, Rosie had put certain facets into Sam. And one of those was that Sam was evil, trying to ruin her life and keep her down.
Yeah.
But upon reflection and upon looking at this, said, what if Sam isn't evil? What if Sam is just scared?
Right.
And it's that pause, it's that taking that moment to reflect, to say, is the way that I am interpreting these events, this situation, this response, the right one? Or can I look at it from a different angle, a different perspective?
Yeah. It's a big, big change to go from thinking about your inner critic as being there to sabotage you and versus reframing it to be to protect you or to support you or to challenge you. Like that is a dramatic change, but I think it's also super healthy as someone who has had some inner critic issues in the past. I am really grateful to have Rosie's perspective on this. And when I think, and this again, this plays out not just in our personal lives, but at work as well. This comes
Oh,
into when we're asked to present the ideas from the team to the boss, and we're going to we're the one that's going to have to share it, and then the boss challenges us, and I hear the inner critic in me.
yeah,
I hear the boss, but what is more resonant is my inner critic saying, "What an idiot! Why did you volunteer for this? And you'd never like the ideas anyway." And you start rationalizing all this stuff, all this crap that isn't real
yeah.
and could be reframed.
We need to rename your inner critic from Bob to Bruce.
Bruce, like Bruce Lee, like the kung fu
No,
guy,
no, like Bruce Springsteen, the boss.
the
So,
boss. Oh,
didn't. All right. So
that was so bad.
it was bad. It was very, very bad. But that's, I was reading bad dad jokes, so I guess I'm like, there you go.
No.
On that though, I think what you're saying is really, really true. I mean, think about that leadership. So even think about reframing what that response is, but rethink. All right, I have to give this presentation to the executive vice president, and I'm feeling like all nervous. My palms are sweaty. And my heart is racing. Different things, and the classic of this is, oh, I'm scared. When
Right.
in fact, those are the same responses that our body has when we're super excited and it's a
Yeah.
challenge. And
Yeah.
so taking the physical manifestations of things, reframing that, taking those initial responses that we have when we get challenged or maybe things don't go the right way, reframing that can really make a big impact, not just on how we're feeling in the moment, but our subsequent behavior, our stress levels, a whole bunch of different pieces around this. And that's a good thing. That's a really, really good thing.
Kurt, what you just said about the anxiety versus anticipation of the presentation is a great reminder for me that our feelings are blunt instruments. They are not finely tuned compasses that know exactly where true north is. We can't easily distinguish between anxiety and anticipation. We can't easily determine the difference between uh, risk and uncertainty.
Yeah.
Feeling something that's risky versus something that's it kind of feels the same way.
I'm sorry. I'm excited about this because I think you touched on a piece here that I find really important. It's part of what we do with some of our work with corporations is we talk about how do you name things and using concrete language,
Mhm.
particularly inside of how you are responding or feeling to something. And in particular, when we're doing workshops on building emotional resilience and dealing with change and stress, this idea of change management, and people are going through a whole bunch of stress. But as you said, the language that we use to express our feelings is a blunt instrument. And the more concrete, the more precise that we can make those word choices and how we describe, as opposed to, I'm feeling anxious, to I'm feeling, uh, you know, concerned about what is going to happen in this conversation that I need to have with the executive vice presidents, because what if they push back and that I don't have the right answer and so I will look bad all of a sudden. And you can keep going down that, the next layer, the next layer, the next
Yeah.
layer. And the more detailed, the more concrete you can make that, then our brains actually handle that very differently than they do when it's the blunt instrument of I'm anxious.
Right.
Okay, this is crazy. I can't do anything about anxious. I can do things about not having like the answers to different things, and that's going to make me look bad. And therefore, I'm going to do this. I can go. I can study more. I can research more. I can figure
Right.
that out.
Right.
Two, I can understand that no, most times if I don't have the right answer, people don't, we have that spotlight effect. And, my little flub isn't going to be the be all end all. I can control that aspect of it and reinform myself of the, psychology behind that. And a number of other ways that our brain now, all of a sudden, instead of it being this ambiguous anxiousness that is too large for me to handle, I compartmentalize it. And because it's compartmentalized, I can do something about it.
I love that you also went to these two very distinct paths from the acknowledgement, from the self-awareness of drilling down the anxiety down to I really don't want to look bad in front of my boss. And that leads to path A, which is research more, study up, get the facts. It creates some agency, right? It's actually empowering once you identify that, I can act on that. Or I can say, in my culture, in my organization, it's okay for me not to have the answers because I've got a whole team of people here who it might be better for someone else to answer some of those questions. And
Exactly.
right, so those sort of working through those specifics can help relieve a lot of anxiety and make you better prepared. I think that
Right.
that's all good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Wraps things up for me. How about you?
Well, yes. Can I just reiterate Rosie's
No,
reminder that
no. I want
yes,
your inner critic to your Bruce to be going, what did I screw up here? Right? Like, no, you can't.
I just want
You
listeners to know that your inner critic isn't just a bully. It's not just a foe or out there to, it's often just scared. And we can meet that with curiosity, if we
mm,
can actually respond with some sense of what's going on here, maybe there's a better place for us both personally and professionally. That
yeah, I think that's great. And it's this again, as we talked about, that cognitive reframe
mhm.
that softens that judgment that we have about ourselves and the situation that we're in, and making sure that we're very precise in how we're thinking about those things. And that, we need to be open to that, to both for ourselves and to others. And in leadership, that means you need to have more space for empathy, for dialogue, for, real connections with others.
So next time that Sam starts whispering in your ear,
or Bruce or Jill,
yes, start with some curiosity. Maybe ask what Sam's trying to do, or Bob or Jill is trying to protect you from, and listen. Maybe without all that judgment, by the use of some reframing. I think that could help.
And we really, truly hope that you will be able to take some of the insights that you got from this conversation and this week go out and find your group.